Document. Part 1. In a distant corner of the galaxy, where stars shimmered like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas. Representatives from countless alien civilizations gathered for the annual Galactic Council Summit. It was a grand event, held in a massive structure that floated in the void of space. Its walls made of translucent material that allowed those inside to see the breathtaking expanse of the cosmos. The building itself felt alive, humming softly, as if it were breathing alongside the beings who filled its halls. Among the delegations was humanity's team, led by Daniel Harper, a man with sharp features and a calm demeanor. His second-in-command, Laura Bennett, stood beside him, her fiery red hair contrasting sharply with the sleek silver uniforms worn by most council members. Humanity had been part of the Galactic Council for decades, but they were still considered outsiders, newcomers, trying to find their footing among empires that had existed for millennia. Despite this, Daniel and Laura carried themselves with quiet confidence, determined to prove that Earth deserved a place at the table. The council chamber buzzed with activity as delegates exchanged greetings, arguments, and negotiations. Some species communicated through clicks and flashes of light, while others relied on translators strapped to their necks or embedded in their bodies. For humans, it was both fascinating and overwhelming. But Daniel had learned over the years how to navigate these gatherings. He knew when to speak, when to listen, and when to hold his ground. This year's summit focused on resource allocation, a topic that always sparked heated debates. Many star systems were rich in minerals, energy sources, or fertile planets, but not all species had equal access to them. The larger empires often claimed the lion's share, leaving smaller factions struggling to survive. Humanity, though relatively young, had managed to carve out a modest niche for itself. They had colonized a few nearby systems and developed sustainable technologies that allowed their colonies to thrive without depleting resources. Now, Daniel saw an opportunity to offer something unique to the council. As the meeting began, the presiding officer, a towering insectoid creature named Kayla of the Lumina Collective, called for order. Her voice echoed through the chamber, silencing the chatter. Convened today to address the growing tensions over resource distribution, she announced, her mandibles clicking rhythmically. Let us proceed with civility and cooperation. One by one, representatives stepped forward to present their proposals. Most focused on securing more resources for their own factions, making promises, or issuing thinly veiled threats. When it was Earth's turn, Daniel rose from his seat and walked to the center of the room. All eyes turned to him, some curious, others dismissive. He took a deep breath and began speaking. Honorable members of the Galactic Council, he said, his voice steady and clear. For too long our galaxy has operated under a system that favors the powerful at the expense of the vulnerable. We propose a different approach, one rooted in collaboration rather than competition. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. Earth has developed renewable energy technology that can power entire civilizations without harming the environment. We are prepared to share this technology freely with every species represented here. Together, we can create a future where no one goes without. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates nodded approvingly, intrigued by the idea. Others frowned, clearly skeptical. But then Zixer of the Vorn Dominion stood up. The Vorn were a proud and warlike species, known for their vast military fleets and ruthless expansionist policies. Zixer himself was an imposing figure, his scaled skin gleaming under the artificial lights, his golden eyes glinting with disdain. Renewable energy, Zixer sneered, his deep voice dripping with mockery. How quaint. Tell me, human, do you truly believe such primitive solutions can meet the needs of advanced civilizations? Or is this just another attempt to win favor by offering trinkets? Daniel clenched his jaw but kept his composure. Our technology may seem simple, but its potential is immense. And unlike many so-called advanced solutions, it does not come at the cost of destroying worlds or exploiting weaker species. Zixer chuckled, a low rumble that sent shivers down the spines of those nearby. Ah yes, the noble humans, always so eager to lecture us about morality Yet your planet remains overcrowded, polluted, and divided. Perhaps you should focus on fixing your own problems before presuming to solve ours." The chamber erupted into laughter, and Daniel felt his cheeks flush with anger. Beside him, Laura placed a reassuring hand on his arm, urging him to stay calm. He glanced at her briefly before turning back to face Zixer. "You misunderstand my point," Daniel replied, his tone firm but measured. "I am not here to judge anyone. I am here to offer a solution, a way for all of us to move forward together. If you choose to reject it, that is your decision. But history will remember which species chose progress over pride." Zixer's smile faded, replaced by a cold glare. "History, you say? Let me remind you, human, that history belongs to the strong. Your kind has only recently crawled out of the mud. Do not mistake kindness for respect. You are children playing at politics, and it is time you learned your place." The room fell silent, the weight of Zixer's words hanging heavily in the air. Daniel stared at him for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Perhaps you're right," he said, surprising everyone. "Perhaps we are still learning. But if this council believes that strength alone determines value, then perhaps we are better off finding our own path." With that, Daniel turned and walked back to his seat, his head held high. Laura followed close behind, her expression unreadable. As they sat down, whispers spread throughout the chamber. No one had expected humanity to respond with such defiance. Even Zixer seemed taken aback, though he quickly masked his surprise with a scowl. When the session ended, Daniel and Laura returned to their quarters aboard the council station. They were greeted by holographic messages from Earth asking for updates on the summit. Daniel sighed as he reviewed the reports, knowing that news of the confrontation would soon reach home. Public opinion had already been mixed about humanity's involvement in the council in this latest incident would likely reignite the debate. "What now?" Laura asked, breaking the silence. She leaned against the wall, arms crossed, her green eyes fixed on Daniel. He looked at her, a mixture of frustration and determination in his gaze. "Now we wait, and we prepare. Because if this is how they see us, as irrelevant and unworthy, then maybe it's time we show them what happens when humanity decides to walk away." Laura raised an eyebrow. "You think Monroe will go for it? Withdrawing from the council isn't exactly a small decision." Daniel shrugged. "It's risky, sure. But sometimes taking a stand means leaving the table entirely, if Earth wants to be taken seriously. We need to stop begging for scraps and start building something worth respecting."
Laura
didn't respond immediately. She stared out the window at the swirling nebula beyond, lost in thought. Finally, she nodded. "All right. Let's see how far we can push this. But if we're doing this, we'd better make damn sure we don't screw it up." Daniel smiled faintly. "Agreed. Because once we leave, there's no going back." And so, in the heart of the galaxy, amidst the glittering stars and ancient empires, humanity stood at a crossroads. Days ahead would test their courage, ingenuity, and resolve. Little did they know, their decision to step away from the table would send ripples across the cosmos, ripples that would eventually force even the proudest leaders to reconsider what they had lost. End document. Document. Part 2 back on Earth. News of the confrontation at the Galactic Council Summit spread like wildfire. Within hours, every major news outlet was covering the story, replaying footage of Daniel Harper's defiant speech and Zixer's dismissive remarks. Social media platforms buzzed with reactions ranging from outrage to pride. Some people praised Daniel for standing up to the arrogance of older civilizations, while others criticized him for risking humanity's fragile position in the galactic community. The debate quickly spilled into political circles, with calls for an emergency session of the United Nations Assembly. President Rachel Monroe, a woman in her late 50s, with sharp eyes and an even sharper mind, watched the unfolding drama from her office in Geneva. She had been briefed earlier by Daniel and Laura, but seeing the public reaction made the situation feel more real and more urgent. Humanity's role in the Galactic Council had always been contentious. Many viewed participation as a chance to learn from advanced species, while others saw it as a waste of resources that could be better spent solving problems on Earth. Now, with tensions at an all-time high, the question of whether to stay or leave had become unavoidable. Monroe called an emergency meeting with her top advisors, including Daniel Harper and Laura Bennett, who had returned to Earth shortly after the summit. They gathered in a secure conference room deep beneath the UN headquarters, the walls lined with screens displaying live updates from around the world. The mood was tense, but focused. Everyone knew the stakes were high. "All right," Monroe began, leaning forward in her chair. "Let's cut to the chase. What are our options here?" Daniel spoke first, his voice calm but firm. "We have two choices. We can swallow our pride and keep trying to prove ourselves to a council that clearly doesn't respect us, or we can walk away, withdraw completely.
Always.
Focus on building our own strength instead of begging for scraps." Nodded in agreement. "And if we do that, we need to make sure we're ready. Leaving the council means losing access to certain resources and trade routes. But it also gives us a chance to chart our own course without being held back by their rules." One of the advisors, a man named Greg Thompson, frowned. "Out. Walking away sounds bold, but what about the colonies? We've already established settlements in several star systems. Abandoning the council could put them at risk if other factions decide to retaliate." "That's a valid concern," Monroe said thoughtfully. "But isn't staying just as risky? If we continue down this path, we'll always be seen as the weak link, the ones who don't belong. At least if we leave, we control our destiny." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. It was a monumental decision, one that would shape the future of humanity for generations to come. Finally, another advisor, a woman named Samantha Liu, broke the silence. "What if we frame it as a strategic move, not running away but stepping back to focus on innovation? Show the galaxy that we don't need their approval to succeed." Monroe nodded slowly. "That's not a bad idea. If we present this as a choice rather than a defeat, we might be able to rally public support. People respond better to confidence than fear." Daniel leaned forward, his expression intense. "Then let's do it. Let's show them what happens when humanity decides to stop playing by their rules. We've got the brains, the tech, and the drive to build something incredible on our own. Why should we wait for permission?" After hours of discussion, the group reached a consensus. Humanity would withdraw from the Galactic Congress entirely. The announcement would emphasize self-reliance and progress, positioning Earth as a civilization determined to forge its own path. Monroe tasked her communications team with crafting a message that would resonate both domestically and internationally. Meanwhile, Daniel and Laura worked on plans to ensure the transition wouldn't leave Earth vulnerable. When the announcement finally came, it was broadcast live to billions of people across the planet. President Monroe stood before a podium flanked by flags representing Earth's United Nations. Her tone was measured but resolute as she addressed the crowd for too long. "We have sought validation from those who refuse to see us as equals. Today, we choose a different path. Effective immediately, Earth will no longer participate in the Galactic Council. Instead, we will focus on strengthening our own society, exploring new frontiers, and securing a brighter future for all humankind. This is not a retreat, it is a declaration of independence. Together, we will prove that humanity's potential knows no bounds." The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. His supporters cheered, waving banners and chanting slogans like "Earth first" and "No more begging." Critics, however, voiced concerns about isolationism and the potential consequences of cutting ties with powerful alien empires. Despite the mixed response, one thing was clear: humanity had made its choice. News of Earth's withdrawal rippled through the galaxy faster than anyone anticipated. Representatives from various species scrambled to understand the implications. For some, it was shocking. For others, it was amusing. Zixer of the Vorn Dominion dismissed the move as childish posturing. "Let them go," he sneered during a private meeting with his advisors. "Without the council, they'll collapse under their own weight. Mark my words, they'll come crawling back within a decade." Kayla, of the Lumina Collective, however, wasn't so quick to dismiss the decision. It's known for her diplomatic skills. She had always admired humanity's resilience and creativity. Sitting in her quarters aboard the council station, she replayed Monroe's speech multiple times, analyzing every word. Something about the tone struck her not arrogance, but conviction. Humans weren't bluffing. They truly believed they could thrive without the council's help. They're serious. Kayla murmured to herself, tapping her claws against the table. And if they succeed, what does that mean for the rest of us? Meanwhile, back on Earth, preparations were underway to adapt to life outside the council. Scientists, engineers, and strategists worked tirelessly to develop new technologies and strengthen existing infrastructure. One of the key figures in this effort was Emma Carter, a brilliant physicist known for her work on quantum energy systems. With funding redirected from council-related projects, Emma led a team tasked with creating sustainable power sources capable of supporting Earth's growing population and expanding colonies. "We're not just building engines here," Emma told her team during a brainstorming session. "We're proving that humanity can innovate without relying on anyone else. Every breakthrough we make is a step toward independence." In addition to technological advancements, Earth's military forces underwent significant upgrades. Captain Ryan Brooks, a decorated officer in charge of planetary defense, oversaw the development of new spacecraft designed for exploration and protection. These vessels were equipped with cutting-edge weapons and shielding technology, ensuring that Earth's borders would remain secure even without the Council's oversight. As months turned into years, the effects of humanity's withdrawal became increasingly apparent. Trade routes once dominated by Council-approved freighters now hosted independent human ships. Colonies expanded rapidly, fueled by Earth's newfound emphasis on self-sufficiency. Breakthroughs in fields like medicine, agriculture, and artificial intelligence transformed daily life, earning humanity recognition not just within the galaxy, but among themselves. Yet, despite these successes, whispers of doubt lingered in the shadows. Not everyone believed Earth's departure was wise. Some feared retaliation from disgruntled council members, particularly the Vorn Dominion. Others worried that isolation might stunt humanity's growth, cutting off opportunities to learn from older, more experienced civilizations. Despite these concerns, there was no turning back. Humanity had taken a bold step, and the galaxy watched, with bated breath to see where it would lead. Little did they know. The consequences of Earth's decision would ripple far beyond anyone's expectations, forcing even the proudest leaders to reconsider what they had lost. End document. Document. Part 3. Years passed since humanity's bold decision to leave the Galactic Council, and Earth transformed in ways few could have imagined. Freed from the constraints of galactic politics, humanity poured its energy into innovation and exploration. The planet became a hub of creativity and progress, with scientists, engineers, and dreamers working together to push the boundaries of what was possible. Colonies that had once relied on Council-approved resources now thrived thanks to Earth's ingenuity and determination. One of the most remarkable breakthroughs came from Emma Carter, the physicist who had spent years perfecting quantum energy technology. Her team developed a new type of reactor capable of generating unlimited clean energy. This invention revolutionized life on Earth and its colonies, powering cities, farms, and spacecraft without harming the environment. News of the achievement spread quickly, earning admiration even from distant star systems. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was leading. Jake Miller, an engineer known for his work on terraforming projects, also made headlines. Under his leadership, barren planets were transformed into lush, habitable worlds. Entire ecosystems sprang up where none had existed before, providing homes for millions of settlers. Jake's methods were so effective that other species began studying them, hoping to replicate his success. Humanity's reputation as a master of adaptation grew stronger with each passing year. As Earth flourished, so did its colonies. New settlements sprouted across nearby star systems, each one a testament to humanity's resilience and ambition. These outposts weren't just copies of Earth. They were vibrant communities shaped by the unique challenges and opportunities of their environments. On one colony orbiting a red dwarf star, settlers built glowing cities powered entirely by solar panels designed to capture faint light. On another, deep within a dense asteroid belt, miners extracted rare minerals using advanced robotics. Everywhere humanity went, they left behind signs of their presence, monuments to their creativity and perseverance. Despite these accomplishments, not everyone in the galaxy viewed humanity's rise with admiration. Rumors began circulating among the older civilizations, whispers of unease about Earth's rapid progress. Some dismissed these stories as exaggerations, while others grew increasingly wary. Zixer, of the Vorn Dominion, still bitter about humanity's defiance, watched developments closely. He couldn't deny the evidence of Earth's success, but he refused to acknowledge it publicly. Instead, he quietly instructed his spies to gather information, searching for weaknesses to exploit. Kayla, of the Lumina Collective, on the other hand, found herself intrigued rather than threatened. She had always believed that diversity strengthened the galaxy, and humanity's achievements proved her point. During a private meeting with her advisors, she expressed cautious optimism. "They may be young, but they're proving themselves capable," she said, her mandibles clicking softly. "Perhaps we underestimated them." Her words sparked debate among the council members. Some argued that humanity's withdrawal was a blessing, freeing up resources and attention for more important matters. Others, however, worried that Earth's absence had created a void, one that no single empire could fill. Without humanity's stabilizing influence, tensions between factions began to rise. Disputes over trade routes and resource allocation escalated into skirmishes, testing the fragile peace that had held for centuries. On Earth, Daniel Harper and Laura Bennett continued to play key roles in shaping humanity's future, though no longer directly involved in diplomacy. They served as advisors to President Monroe, offering guidance based on their experiences with the Council. They often discussed the long-term implications of Earth's decision, weighing the benefits against the risks. "We've come a long way," Daniel said one evening as he and Laura sat in a quiet corner of the UN headquarters, outside the city. Skyline glowed with lights reflecting off the glass windows. "But I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. The Council didn't just let us go, they pushed us out. And sooner or later, they'll realize what they've lost." Laura nodded thoughtfully. "You think they'll try to bring us back?" "Maybe," Daniel replied, "or maybe they'll decide we're too much of a threat. Either way, we need to stay ready. Progress is great, but it won't mean anything if we can't defend ourselves." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent message from Captain Ryan Brooks, head of planetary defense. A distress signal had been detected near the edge of human-controlled spaceship belonging to the Corin Alliance. A minor faction within the Galactic Council was stranded and running out of oxygen. The Corin were known for their peaceful nature and had never posed a threat to Earth. But helping them would require crossing into territory monitored by the Council. Daniel and Laura immediately brought the situation to President Monroe. After reviewing the details, she agreed that Earth had a moral obligation to assist. "We walked away from the Council, but that doesn't mean we turn our backs on those in need," Monroe declared. "Prepare a rescue mission. Show them that humanity's values haven't changed, even if our alliances have." Captain Brooks led the operation aboard the Aurora Dawn, a state-of-the-art vessel equipped with advanced medical facilities and life support systems. When the crew arrived at the stranded ship, they found the Corin survivors weak but alive. The aliens, resembling tall, slender beings with shimmering skin, expressed gratitude through their translator devices. One of them, a leader named Tarek, spoke directly to Brooks. "You risked much to save us," Tarek said, his voice trembling with emotion. "We will not forget this kindness." The encounter was brief but impactful. As the Aurora Dawn returned to Earth, news of the rescue spread throughout the galaxy. Many were surprised not just by humanity's willingness to help, but by the advanced technology displayed during the mission. The Corin described the sleek design of the human ship and its impressive capabilities, sparking curiosity among other species. Word reached the Galactic Council, where leaders debated the significance of Earth's actions. Zixer scoffed at the reports, dismissing them as propaganda. So they saved a few weaklings. What does that prove? They're still insignificant compared to us. Kayla, however, saw things differently. Insignificance. Or perhaps humility. Humanity chose to act when others ignored the call. That says something about their character. The incident marked a turning point in how some species viewed Earth. While distrust lingered, there was also a growing sense of respect for humanity's technological prowess. Yes, but more importantly for their principles. Even those who once ridiculed humanity began to wonder if they had misjudged the young civilization. Back on Earth, life continued to improve. Cities grew greener, economies thrived, and education expanded to include lessons on interstellar diplomacy and ethics. Humanity was no longer content to simply survive. It wanted to inspire. Artists painted murals celebrating exploration, writers penned stories imagining a united galaxy, and musicians composed symphonies that echoed hope across the stars. Yet, beneath the surface, questions remained. Could humanity truly stand alone, or would their isolation eventually lead to conflict? Would the Galactic Council seek reconciliation, or would they see Earth's rise as a challenge to their dominance? No one knew for sure. But one thing was certain. Humanity had proven that walking away from the table didn't mean giving up, it meant finding a new way forward. And somewhere, in the vast expanse of the cosmos, eyes turned toward Earth, watching and waiting to see what the future would hold. End document. Document. Part 4, The Rescue of the Corin Survivors, marked a turning point not just for humanity, but for the galaxy at large. News of Earth's intervention spread like wildfire, carried by traders, explorers, and diplomats who traveled between star systems. The story was told and retold, each version adding a new layer of awe or skepticism. Some praised humanity's compassion, while others dismissed it as a calculated move to gain favor. But one thing was undeniable. Earth's actions had opened a door that many thought was permanently closed. On the council station, whispers about humanity grew louder. Kayla of the Lumina Collective called an informal meeting with several key leaders, including representatives from the Corin Alliance. "We cannot ignore what has happened," she said, her voice calm but firm. "Humanity acted when we did. Not. That speaks volumes about their character, and perhaps our own shortcomings." Tarek, the Corin leader rescued by the Aurora Dawn, nodded in agreement. "They showed kindness without expecting anything in return. In my people's eyes, this makes them worthy of respect." His words carried weight, especially among smaller factions who felt overshadowed by the Council's dominant powers. Zixer, however, remained unmoved. Seated at the far end of the room, his golden eyes glinted with irritation. "Kindness means nothing if they lack strength," he growled. "Their technology may be impressive, but it is meaningless without the will. To use it, let them play hero. They are still irrelevant." Kayla turned to him, her mandibles clicking softly. Irrelevant or underestimated? Remember, Zixer, even the smallest spark can ignite a fire. Humanity's withdrawal has already disrupted the balance. Ignoring them now could prove costly. Tension in the room was palpable, but no resolution was reached. The council disbanded the meeting, leaving its members to ponder Kella's warning. For some, the idea of reaching out to Earth seemed unthinkable. For others, it was becoming unavoidable. Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe faced mounting pressure to address the growing interest in humanity's activities. Diplomatic envoys from various species began arriving at Earth's borders, seeking audiences under the guise of curiosity or gratitude. Her team to respond politely, but firmly, reminding visitors that Earth was no longer part of the Galactic Council. However, as the number of requests increased, she realized that ignoring them entirely might do more harm than good. Daniel, Harper, and Laura Bennett were called in to advise on how to handle the situation. Sitting in Monroe's office, they reviewed the list of incoming delegations. "Most of these visits are harmless," Daniel said, scrolling through the names. "But some are clearly fishing for information. They want to know how far we've come and whether we pose a threat." Laura leaned forward, her green eyes sharp with focus. Then let's give them something to think about. We don't have to reveal everything, but we can show enough to remind them why humanity matters. Monroe nodded thoughtfully. Agreed. Let's set up a controlled visit, something that highlights our progress without compromising security. If they see what we're capable of, maybe they'll stop treating us like children. The plan came together quickly. Earth prepared a showcase event, inviting select delegates to tour one of its most advanced colonies, New Horizon, located on a terraformed planet orbiting a distant star. The colony was a marvel of engineering, featuring self-sustaining ecosystems, cutting-edge infrastructure, and a thriving population of settlers. It was also home to the quantum energy reactor developed by Emma Carter, which powered the entire settlement. When the delegation arrived, they were greeted by Captain Ryan Brooks, who served as both host and guide. Among the visitors was Ambassador Trelk of the Zindari Union, a species known for their diplomatic expertise. Tall and slender, with skin that shimmered faintly in the light, Trelk exuded an air of quiet authority. He listened intently as Brooks explained the colony's history and achievements, asking thoughtful questions along the way. This reactor, it produces unlimited energy? Trelk asked, standing before the massive machine housed in a transparent dome. Its core pulsed with a soft blue glow, casting intricate patterns on the walls. That's correct, Brooks replied. Clean, efficient, and sustainable, enough to power cities, ships, or even entire planets. Trelk tilted his head, studying the device with obvious admiration. Remarkable. Such technology could transform countless lives. Why share it only with yourselves? Brooks smiled faintly. Because we learned the hard way that not everyone values cooperation. This reactor is ours to use as we see fit for now. The ambassador didn't press further, though his expression suggested he understood the underlying message. As the tour continued, the delegates marveled at other innovations, from automated farms to medical facilities equipped with groundbreaking treatments. By the time the visit ended, there was no doubt in anyone's mind that humanity had made incredible strides since leaving the council. Back aboard the council station, reports of the delegation's findings sparked heated discussions. Some leaders, like Kayla, argued that humanity's resurgence should prompt a re-evaluation of their status. They've proven themselves capable of contributing meaningfully, she said during a council session. Perhaps it's time we extend an olive branch. Others, particularly Zixer, rejected the idea outright. An olive branch? To whom? A race that abandoned us in a fit of childish pride? If anything, their success proves they don't need us. Let them rot in their isolation. Despite the divide, a consensus began to form among certain factions. Humanity's absence had exposed cracks in the council's structure, cracks that widened with each passing year. Resource disputes escalated into skirmishes, alliances fractured under the weight of mistrust, and smaller species grew increasingly restless. Without Earth's stabilizing influence, the council struggled to maintain order. Recognizing the gravity of the situation, Kayla proposed sending a formal envoy to Earth, a gesture of goodwill and an invitation to reconsider their decision. The motion passed narrowly, with Zixer voting against it but unable to sway the majority. Trelk volunteered to lead the mission, citing his experience in diplomacy and his recent visit to New Horizon. When Trelk's ship crossed into human-controlled space, it was met by a squadron of Earth vessels commanded by Captain Brooks. The ambassador transmitted a message upon arrival. We come in peace, seeking dialogue. Humanity's achievements have not gone unnoticed, and we wish to discuss a possible path forward. President Monroe agreed to hear them out, though she made it clear that any negotiations would occur on Earth's terms. The meeting took place in Geneva, where Daniel and Laura joined Monroe in welcoming Trelk and his team. The atmosphere was tense but respectful. With both sides carefully choosing their words, your departure left a void within the council, Trelk began, his tone measured. Many of us underestimated the impact you had not just as participants, but as mediators. Now, as tensions rise and alliances falter, we find ourselves in need of your wisdom and innovation. Monroe listened silently, her expression unreadable. When Trelk finished speaking, she leaned forward slightly. Let me be clear. Humanity walked away because we were treated as less than equal. If you expect us to return, you must offer more than empty promises. Trelk nodded. Understood. We propose reforms to ensure fair representation and equitable resource distribution. Additionally, we acknowledge the value of Earth's contributions and pledge to support your continued growth. Room fell silent as Monroe considered the offer. Beside her, Daniel exchanged a glance with Laura, both aware of the weight of the moment. Finally, Monroe spoke. Reforms alone won't suffice. If humanity agrees to rejoin, it will be on our terms, not yours. Full autonomy for our colonies, access to council resources, and reparations for years of marginalization failed to meet these conditions, and we will remain independent. Trelk hesitated briefly before nodding. Your demands are reasonable. I will convey them to the council and advocate for their acceptance. As the meeting concluded, Daniel couldn't help but feel a mix of hope and caution. Humanity had taken a bold step years ago, proving they could thrive without the council. But returning meant walking a fine line between asserting their worth and avoiding past mistakes. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. Laura stood beside Daniel, gazing at the fading light. You think they mean it this time? She asked quietly. I don't know, Daniel admitted. But if they do, we'd better make sure they never forget what happens when humanity decides to stand its ground. And so, as the envoy departed and Earth prepared for whatever came next, the galaxy held its breath. Humanity had risen from obscurity to become a force to be reckoned with, the reminder that sometimes leaving the table was the first step toward earning a seat worth keeping. End document. Document. Part 6. Humanity's return to the Galactic Council marked the beginning of a new chapter, one filled with both promise and peril. The ceremony had been grand, with representatives from countless species gathering to witness Earth reclaim its seat. Yet beneath the surface of unity lay simmering tensions, as old rivalries and unresolved grievances threatened to undermine the fragile peace. For every ambassador who welcomed humanity back, there was another who viewed their resurgence with suspicion or outright hostility. Daniel Harper and Laura Bennett found themselves thrust into the heart of this delicate balancing act. Primary delegates to the Council. They were tasked not only with representing humanity's interests, but also with navigating the complex web of galactic politics. It was no small challenge. While some factions embraced humanity's contributions, others sought to exploit their presence for personal gain or to sabotage their efforts entirely. One of the first tests came during a session focused on resource allocation. Proposal was put forward to redistribute mining rights in a contested region of space, home to rare minerals essential for advanced technology. Humanity supported the idea, arguing that equitable access would benefit all species. But Zixer of the Vorn Dominion vehemently opposed it, claiming the resources rightfully belonged to his empire due to historical precedent. This is our territory, Zixer declared, his voice booming through the chamber.
To share it would
Be an insult to generations of sacrifice and labor. Daniel stood to respond, his tone measured but firm. Respect for history is important, but so is fairness. These resources are vital to the survival and growth of countless civilizations. Hoarding them serves no one, not even you. The room erupted into murmurs, with delegates divided over whose argument held more merit. Kayla of the Lumina Collective stepped in to mediate, her calm demeanor cutting through the chaos. Perhaps a compromise can be reached, she suggested. Shared mining operations, overseen by neutral parties, could ensure transparency and prevent conflict. Zixer sneered at the suggestion. Compromise? With humans leading the charge? Their amateurs playing at diplomacy? Their involvement will only lead to disaster. Laura leaned forward, her green eyes blazing with determination. If you have concerns about humanity's role, Ambassador Zixer, then address them directly. But don't dismiss us simply because we challenge your monopoly. Progress requires collaboration, not domination. Her words drew applause from several corners of the chamber, particularly from smaller factions, eager to see the balance of power shift. Zixer, however, remained unmoved, his golden eyes narrowing as he glared at Laura. "Mark my words," loud under his breath, though loud enough for those nearby to hear. "This isn't over." Despite Zixer's resistance, the proposal passed with a narrow majority, thanks in part to Kella's diplomatic finesse and humanity's growing influence. The decision set a precedent for future negotiations, signaling a move toward greater inclusivity within the Council. Still, it was clear that Zixer's animosity toward Earth ran deep. He would not let the matter rest easily. Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe closely monitored developments, relying on Daniel and Laura to provide updates after each session. She knew that maintaining humanity's position required constant vigilance, especially given the volatility of galactic politics. To bolster their standing, she authorized increased funding for projects showcasing Earth's technological advancements. Emma Carter's quantum energy reactors were deployed in key locations across human-controlled space, while Jake Miller's terraforming innovations transformed barren planets into thriving colonies. These achievements did not go unnoticed. Other species began approaching Earth with requests for collaboration, eager to learn from their successes. Some sought partnerships in renewable energy, hoping to adopt Earth's sustainable practices. Others looked to replicate Jake's methods for adapting hostile environments into habitable worlds. Humanity's reputation as a beacon of progress continued to grow, earning them allies among previously marginalized factions. Yet, not everyone viewed these developments positively. Zixer saw humanity's rise as a direct threat to his empire's dominance. In private meetings with his advisors, he plotted ways to undermine Earth's influence, spreading rumors of hidden agendas and secret weapons. His propaganda campaign gained traction among certain groups, sowing seeds of doubt about humanity's true intentions. "They're building an army," Zixer claimed during one such meeting, his voice dripping with venom. "All this talk of peace and cooperation, it's a facade. Once they've consolidated power, they'll turn on us all." His accusations struck a chord with some, particularly those already wary of humanity's rapid ascent. Whispers of conspiracy spread throughout the Council, prompting calls for investigations into Earth's activities. Laura worked tirelessly to counteract these falsehoods, organizing public demonstrations of transparency. She invited ambassadors to tour Earth's facilities, allowing them to see firsthand that humanity's focus remained on innovation and cooperation rather than conquest. "These accusations are baseless," Laura stated during a press conference. "Flanked by holographic displays of Earth's latest projects, we have nothing to hide because we have nothing to fear. Our goal is simple: to work together for the betterment of all. If anyone doubts that, I invite them to come see for themselves." Efforts paid off, disarming many critics and reinforcing humanity's image as a trustworthy partner. Even Kayla expressed admiration for Laura's diplomatic skill, commending her ability to diffuse tension and foster understanding. "You're proving that strength doesn't always mean force," Kayla remarked during a private conversation. "Sometimes it means patience and courage." Still, Zixer refused to relent. Determined to discredit humanity, he orchestrated a series of covert attacks on trade routes near Earth's borders. Ships carrying supplies and materials were ambushed by pirates operating under his command. Though publicly, he denied any involvement. When confronted, he accused Earth of fabricating stories to justify military expansion. "It's convenient, isn't it?" Zixer sneered during a council session. "Every time something goes wrong, humanity blames me. Perhaps instead of pointing fingers, they should focus on protecting their own people." Daniel rose to respond, his expression calm but resolute. "If you truly believe we're fabricating these incidents, then prove it. Open your records to inspection. Allow independent investigators to verify your claims. Until then, your denials ring hollow." Zixer's face darkened, but he said nothing further, knowing that refusing an investigation would only fuel suspicion. Instead, he retreated to plot his next move, vowing to strike where humanity least expected. Meanwhile, Captain Ryan Brooks led efforts to strengthen Earth's defenses, deploying advanced surveillance drones and upgrading patrol fleets. Intelligence reports indicated that Zixer's aggression was escalating, raising concerns about a potential full-scale conflict. Brooks worked closely with Monroe's team to develop contingency plans, ensuring that Earth was prepared for any scenario. As tensions mounted, humanity's resolve only grew stronger. Daniel and Laura continued to champion policies promoting unity, inequality, earning respect from allies and adversaries alike. Their persistence reminded the galaxy that humanity's return is not just about reclaiming a seat at the table. It was about reshaping the very foundation upon which the Council stood. And so, amidst the challenges and uncertainties, one truth became increasingly clear: humanity had proven that walking away from the table wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a journey toward something greater. Whether facing opposition from entrenched powers like Zixer or forging new alliances with like-minded species, Earth stood ready to meet whatever came next. In the vast expanse of the cosmos, where stars burned bright and civilizations rose and fell, humanity had carved out a place for itself not through force or fear, but through determination and vision. And though the road ahead remained fraught with obstacles, they faced it with hope, knowing that the future was theirs to shape. Asterisk, asterisk, end. Document Singzim. Document. Part 7. The tension between humanity and Zixer of the Vorn Dominion reached a boiling point. Despite his attempts to discredit Earth, Zixer's schemes were starting to unravel. His covert attacks on trade routes had drawn too much attention, and whispers of his involvement spread through the council chambers like wildfire. Some ambassadors began questioning his motives openly, while others quietly distanced themselves from his aggressive rhetoric. Daniel, Harper, and Laura Bennett seized the opportunity to expose Zixer's actions. They worked tirelessly behind the scenes, gathering evidence of pirate raids near Earth's borders and linking them to ships registered under the Vorn Dominion. It wasn't easy. Zixer's network was vast and well hidden, but humanity's advanced surveillance technology gave them an edge. Captain Ryan Brooks coordinated with intelligence operatives across human-controlled space, intercepting communications and tracking suspicious movements. When they finally presented their findings during a council session, the room fell silent. Daniel stood at the podium, projecting holographic images of damaged cargo ships and intercepted messages that clearly implicated Zixer's forces. "We didn't fabricate these incidents," he said, his voice steady but firm. "These are facts. Ships carrying supplies for peaceful colonies have been attacked without provocation. Lives have been lost. All signs point to one source: the Vorn Dominion." Zixer bolted to his feet, his golden eyes blazing with fury. "This is outrageous," he roared. "You accuse me based on hearsay and manipulated data. This is slander." Laura stepped forward, her green eyes locking onto Zixer's. "If you're innocent, prove it. Open your records to independent investigators. Let us verify your claims, instead of hiding behind excuses." The chamber erupted into murmurs as delegates debated the validity of the evidence. Kayla of the Lumina Collective called for order, her mandibles clicking softly. "Ambassador Zixer, transparency is essential if we are to resolve this matter. Fairly, will you comply with an investigation?" Zixer hesitated, his expression darkening. He knew refusing would only fuel suspicion, but agreeing carried its own risks. Finally, after a long pause, he growled, "Very well. I will allow an inspection, but if this turns out to be another ploy by humanity, there will be consequences." The decision marked a turning point. An investigative team led by neutral parties, including representatives from the Corran Alliance and other smaller factions, was assembled to examine Zixer's records and operations. Humanity offered full cooperation, providing access to their surveillance data and even volunteering personnel to assist in the investigation. The move earned praise from many council members, further solidifying Earth's reputation as a force for accountability and justice. As the investigation unfolded, cracks began to appear in Zixer's carefully constructed facade. Investigators uncovered discrepancies in shipping logs and discovered hidden caches of weapons aboard Vorn vessels, while Zixar tried to dismiss these findings as misunderstandings or isolated incidents. The mounting evidence painted a damning picture. His allies within the council began to waver, unwilling to risk association with a leader whose actions could destabilize the entire galaxy. Kayla addressed the council once more, her tone resolute. It is clear that Ambassador Zixer has acted recklessly, endangering lives and undermining trust. If the Galactic Council is to function effectively, such behavior cannot go unchecked. We must hold him accountable, Zixer's response was. Predictable, defensive, and defiant. You think punishing me will solve anything? He spat. This council is weak, clinging to ideals that mean nothing in the face of power. Mark my words, humanity's interference will only lead to chaos. Words carried little weight now. The majority of the council voted to impose sanctions on the Vorn Dominion, restricting their access to certain trade routes and resources until they cooperated fully with the ongoing investigation. For the first time in centuries, Zixer found himself isolated, his empire weakened by his own arrogance. Back on Earth, President Rachel Monroe watched the unfolding events with cautious optimism. She knew that exposing Zixer's schemes was a victory, but it didn't eliminate the underlying issues plaguing the council. Corruption, inequality, and mistrust still festered beneath the surface, threatening to erupt again if left unaddressed. To prevent history from repeating itself, humanity needed to push for deeper reforms. Daniel and Laura took the lead in advocating for structural changes within the council. They proposed measures to increase transparency, such as requiring regular audits of member factions' activities and establishing a committee dedicated to resolving disputes peacefully. They also pushed for greater representation for smaller species, ensuring that no single faction could dominate decision-making processes. These reforms aren't just about fairness, they're about survival, Daniel argued during a council session. If we want this council to endure, we need to build a system that works for everyone, not just the powerful few. Their proposals faced resistance from entrenched elites who benefited from the status quo, but support grew steadily among the council's marginalized members. Kayla became a key ally, using her diplomatic skills to rally others to humanity's cause. Together, they formed a coalition committed to reshaping the council's foundation. Meanwhile, Earth continued to demonstrate its value through action. Emma Carter unveiled a new breakthrough in quantum energy technology, a compact reactor capable of powering entire fleets of ships. Jake Miller expanded his terraforming efforts, transforming desolate moons into habitable environments for displaced populations. These achievements reinforced humanity's role as a leader in innovation and compassion, earning them respect even from former critics. Yet challenges remained. Zixer's fall from grace created a power vacuum that some factions sought to exploit. Smaller empires began jockeying for influence, testing the council's ability to maintain stability. Laura worked tirelessly to mediate conflicts, often finding herself caught between competing interests. Her patience and pragmatism earned her admiration, though the strain of constant negotiation took its toll. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Laura joined Daniel in a quiet corner of the council station. Outside the window, stars twinkled against the endless blackness of space. "Do you ever wonder if we're making a difference?" she asked, her voice tinged with exhaustion. Daniel smiled faintly. "Every day. But then I remember why we started this, to show the galaxy what humanity is capable of. And look how far we've come. We're not just surviving, we're thriving. It has to count for something." Laura nodded slowly, her gaze fixed on the distant stars. "I just hope it's enough. There's still so much work to do." Daniel placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We'll get there. One step at a time." As humanity pressed forward, the galaxy began to change not overnight, but gradually. Reforms took root, fostering greater collaboration and understanding among species. Trade flourished, scientific breakthroughs accelerated, and alliances strengthened. Even Zixer's downfall served as a reminder that no empire was untouchable, inspiring others to demand accountability and fairness. In the end, humanity's return to the Galactic Council wasn't just about reclaiming a seat, it was about proving that progress required courage, integrity, and unity. By standing firm in their principles and working alongside others, they had laid the groundwork for a brighter future. And though the journey was far from over, one thing was certain: humanity had earned its place among the stars. End document.